Picture a life where every second of your day is spent chasing after bliss, a non-stop roller coaster of pure enjoyment. Imagine waking up to a world that hands you an endless buffet of delights, movies, snacks, social media likes, all tailored to scratch every itch you've got, no effort required. It sounds like paradise, right? A dream where boredom doesn't exist and happiness is on tap? But here's the kicker. What if this relentless quest for good vibes doesn't set you free, but locks you in a cage you didn't even notice being built? Now let's chew on that idea a bit more, because it's not as simple as it seems at first glance. What if the promise of constant happiness, those little dopamine hits from a new gadget or a viral video, turns out to be a shiny trap, baited with instant gratification? We're talking about a setup where you're so busy feeling good that you don't see the strings pulling you along, like a puppet in a feel-good play. Today we're going to peel back the curtain on how chasing pleasure might be the sneakiest form of modern slavery out there hiding in plain sight. This isn't just some wild theory I cooked up over coffee. It's a warning that's echoed through time loud and clear. Aldous Huxley, the brain behind Brave New World, saw this coming a mile away, and we'll lean on his eerie vision to guide us through this maze. We'll mix in some brain science and real-life wisdom to figure out if our love for comfort is quietly stealing our freedom piece by subtle piece. Stick with me, because by the end, I got a mind-blowing perspective that might just flip how you see your whole life, from morning coffee to midnight scrolls. So let's hit the ground running and explore this wild ride. No safety nets or brakes allowed. We're diving into the hidden traps of pleasure, those little things we crave that might be chaining us up without us even knowing, like a sugar-coated prison. It's a journey to spot the dangers and, more importantly, to figure out how we break free in a world that's dead set on keeping us hooked, dangling carrots everywhere. Ready to jump in and see where this rabbit hole takes us? Let's go! Huxley's Brave New World isn't your typical dystopia with rusty shackles, grim dungeons, or barking guard dogs. Nope. It's a place where people are kept in line with a drug called soma. Think of it like a happiness pill that keeps everyone chill no matter how empty their lives get. A perfect numbing agent. The crazy part is they don't fight back because they're too busy feeling good to care, lost in a haze of artificial bliss. It's a control so smooth you'd never guess it's there, wrapped in a bow of contentment. Now let's bring that closer to home and look at our own backyards with fresh eyes. Think about your phone buzzing with notifications, or the way you can scroll TikTok for hours without blinking. Doesn't that feel a bit like our own soma, just with better graphics? Huxley's big idea was that pleasure could be a leash, so subtle and sweet that you'd never tug against it. A velvet rope around your neck. It's not about force or fear, it's about keeping us distracted to question anything, too cozy to rebel. Take a second to look at your own day, from sunrise to that late night Netflix glow. How often do you grab your phone for a quick laugh or a hit of gossip, only to realize you've lost an hour or 3 down a digital rabbit hole? We're surrounded by these little pleasures, from Netflix binges to candy-colored apps, all designed to keep us coming back, like moths to a flame that never burns out. It's like we've got a buffet of feel-good options, but we're not asking who's serving it or why they're so eager to please us. Psychologists have a name for this trap, the hedonic treadmill, and it's a doozy of a concept. It's this messed up cycle where you chase something fun, a new pair of sneakers, a killer burger, whatever, and the buzz wears off fast, leaving you hungry for the next thing, always one step behind. You're running full speed, sweat dripping, but you're not getting anywhere, just stuck craving more. A hamster on a wheel with no exit ramp. Huxley nailed it. We're not free in this chase. We're prisoners to what we want, locked in by our own appetites. Here's where it gets real. Science backs this up with some scary stats that hit close to home. A 2020 study in the Journal of Affective Disorders found that the more time we spend glued to screens, especially social media, the worse our anxiety and depression get. A grim trade-off. It's a vicious loop. We feel lousy, so we scroll to feel better, but that just digs a hole deeper, piling on stress we didn't sign up for. We're trading our peace of mind for a quick fix that doesn't even last, like buying happiness with a credit card that's already maxed out. So what's the damage here? Beyond a few lost hours or a tired thumb for swiping, it's not just about time, It's about what we're giving up in the process, the stuff that slips away while we're not looking. When we're hooked on these instant thrills, we're handing over our focus, our energy, and maybe even our shot at something bigger, all for a fleeting buzz. The real cost isn't in dollars, it's in the freedom we don't even realize we're losing, sold off one click at a time. Let's flip the script for a minute with some wisdom from Viktor Frankl, a guy who survived the Holocaust and wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He said real happiness doesn't come from chasing good times. It comes from finding a reason to get out of bed, something worth fighting for, even when the world's falling apart. Without that, we're just bouncing from one distraction to the next, trying to fill a gap that keeps getting wider. A void no amount of likes can plug. Sound familiar, like a tune you've heard too many times on repeat. Think about your own life for a sec. Beyond the daily grind and screen glare, are you making choices that light you up inside, or are you just coasting on whatever feels good in the moment, letting the current carry you? Every day we're picking between scrolling X for memes or calling a friend, between zoning out to a show or working on something that matters to us, tiny forks in the road. Those little calls aren't loud, but they stack up into who we become, brick by quiet brick. Huxley had this killer line: most people can ignore just about anything if you let them, and boy, was he right. When we're drowning in easy pleasures, we stop noticing the stuff that actually makes life rich, like real talks, creative sparks, or pitching in to help someone out. The meat of existence. We're so busy chasing the next high that we miss the deeper, quieter joys right in front of us, trading gold for glitter without a second thought. It's like we're sleepwalking through the best parts, hypnotized by the shiny stuff. Here's a gut punch. Pleasure isn't the hero of this story. It's the villain in disguise, twirling its mustache. When we let it run the show, it doesn't free us up. It ties us down with invisible ropes made of habits and cravings, tighter than we'd ever admit. These aren't chains you can see or shake off easily. They're sneaky, draining our energy and potential while we're busy liking posts or binging shows, a slow bleed we ignore. It's a con so slick we thank it for the ride, not seeing the bars closing in. But hold up, there's more to this than just us messing up on our own accord. There's a whole system out there banking on us staying hooked, and it's got a name: the attention economy. A beast with deep pockets. It's a world where your eyeballs are the prize, and every click or swipe is someone else cashing in, turning your time into their profit. We're not just users, we're the product being sold, packaged up neat and tidy for the highest bidder. Imagine a giant marketplace where your attention is the hottest currency around, more precious than gold or gas. Every time you watch a YouTube ad or a double tap an Instagram pic, you're not just chilling, you're feeding a machine that's built to keep you locked in, a cog in its gears. It's not about oil or tech anymore, it's about you, and companies are fighting tooth and nail to own every spare second you've got, a silent auction you didn't RSVP to. Wild, right? How are the treasure they're all digging for? This isn't some sci-fi conspiracy. It's biology doing the heavy lifting, straight from our wiring. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky says our brains are wired to chase rewards, pumping out dopamine every time we get a little win, like a text back or a sale alert, a chemical high five. The crazy part is we get more of that rush from waiting for the reward than from actually getting it, which is why we're glued to our screen, refreshing like maniacs on a treasure hunt. It's a built-in glitch they've learned to exploit, keeping us dangling on the hook. Think about your own habits for a minute, those little ticks you barely notice anymore. Ever catch yourself checking your phone without even meaning to, or craving a snack just because you're bored, like a reflex you can't shake? That's not random. It's a loop designed to keep you hooked, and the folks behind the apps know exactly how to play it, pulling levers we didn't know we had. They've turned us into junkies for the next ping, always chasing but never full, a hunger that never sleeps. Tristan Harris, a guy who used to work at Google, calls this trick intermittent variable rewards, a mouthful with a punch. It's the same gimmick slot machines use. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, and that unpredictability keeps you pulling the lever, coins clinking in your head. Our phones are little casinos in our pockets, and every buzz is a spin of the wheel, a gamble we can't stop playing. Huxley's Soma might have been a pill, but our version digital, and it's just as addictive, maybe more, with no prescription needed. Here's why this hits hard. It's not just about wasting time, it's about losing who we could be, the us we're meant to grow into. When we're stuck chasing these quick highs, we're not building anything real. No skills, no deep connections, no big dreams, just sandcastles that wash away. Cal Newport, who wrote Deep Work, says all this shallow scrolling is killing our ability to focus on the stuff that actually pays off, like a slow leak in our potential. We're trading our shot at greatness for a cheap thrill, a lousy deal when you think about it. Take a step back and look at your day, from coffee to collapse, with honest eyes. How much of it goes to things that make you grow, like learning something new or helping a buddy out, versus stuff that just numbs you out, a mindless haze? It's not about guilt tripping here. It's about waking up to what's slipping through our fingers, the hours we can't get back. We've got to ask, are we living, or are we just consuming pawns in someone else's game? The system's not exactly rooting for us to break free either, and it's got a megaphone to prove it. Ads scream that happiness is one click away, and society's obsessed with bigger, better, more followers, more stuff, more likes, a never-ending wish list. Philosopher Erich Fromm called it out into Have or to Be, saying we're so busy owning things that we forget how to just be, lost in a pile of receipts. It's a setup where we're never happy enough to stop buying, always one purchase shy of enough. So what's the way out of this shiny mess we've stumbled into? It starts with flipping the script. Stop hunting for pleasure and start hunting for purpose, a North Star to steer by. This isn't about swearing off fun. It's about putting it in its place so it doesn't run your life. A sidekick, not the boss. Psychologist Martin Seligman says the best lives come from meaning, not just feeling good. Think relationships, passion projects, making a dent in the world, the stuff that sticks. Pause and think. What really lights you up, not just for a hot minute, but for the long haul? Not the 5-minute buzz from a viral clip, but the kind of joy that sticks with you. Like nailing a goal or laughing with someone you love. A warmth that lingers. Can you spot one spot in your life where you're picking the easy hit over the long game? A trade you might rethink. That's where the shift begins. A crack in the wall we can widen. We're not done yet. There's more to unpack about how this pleasure chase screws with our heads and our world, and it's juicy. Stick around because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of what it does to us and how we fight back, gloves off. The big reveal is still coming, and it's going to shake up everything you think you know about being happy and free. A twist worth waiting for. Let's keep rolling deeper into the fray. Now let's zoom out and see how this obsession with pleasure doesn't just mess with us. It messes with everything, a ripple effect gone wild. Thinkers like Huxley warned that a society hooked on good times could slide into a weird kind of control, something called soft tyranny, as plush as it is perilous. It's not about jackboots and jail cells. It's about keeping us so comfy we don't bother to push back. A velvet glove over an iron fist. Sounds cozy, but it's a slow chokehold tightening while we nap. Back in the 1800s, a French guy named Alexis de Tocqueville saw this coming, peering into the democracy's future. He said people might one day trade their freedom for a cushy life, happy to let someone else call the shots as long as the snacks keep coming. A deal too good to refuse. Huxley took that idea and ran with it in Brave New World, showing a world where folks are too blissed out to notice their puppets, strings hidden in the fun. Look around today. Smart homes, food delivery apps, endless streaming. Are we that far off, or are we already halfway there? Here's the sneaky part. This doesn't feel like a prison, not even close. It's more like a luxury suite. It feels like winning, new tech, instant everything, life on easy mode, all the bells and whistles we could ask for. But every time we lean harder into convenience, we're handing over a little more control to the running the show, a quiet surrender. It's not oppression with a capital O. It's a hug that's just a bit too tight, one we don't squirm out of. Huxley put it perfectly. The scariest kind of control is when people love being controlled. A twisted kind of romance. Imagine a setup where the big shots don't need to crack a whip because we're too busy liking their post to care. A voluntary handover. How much of your day is really yours, and how much is shaped by what your phone tells you to want? A script you didn't write. It's a question worth chewing on, a bone we need to pick clean. This isn't just about you or me, it's bigger than that. A web that catches us all. When we're all zoned out on pleasure, Our relationships get shallow, our communities fray, and even the planet takes a hit from all the stuff we buy to keep the high going. A domino effect. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called it the despair of the aesthetic life, chasing pretty things and fun times while dodging the hard stuff that actually matters. A dodgeball game we lose. He said real life starts when we pick purpose over play, stepping up to the plate. Picture two roads stretching out in front of you, each with its own vibe and destination. One smooth as glass, lined with candy and screen, but it leads nowhere deep. Just a loop of more, a treadmill in disguise. The other's bumpy, full of rocks, steep climbs, but it takes you to real stuff. Growth, love, a mark you leave behind, a legacy worth sweating for. Which one are you on right now? And which one's calling your name? Science says Kierkegaard was onto something, and the numbers don't lie about what works. Studies show folks who go after big inside stuff, like getting better at something or helping people, feel way happier than those chasing cash or clout, a gap that's stark. But our world's rigged to push the shiny, empty prizes. Ads don't sell you a better soul. They sell you a better phone, a bait and switch we bite on. It's a hustle that keeps us restless and reaching, never quite landing where we want. Here's the dirty secret. This whole game runs on us never being satisfied. A machine that needs our itch to keep humming. If you were truly good with what you've got, you wouldn't need the next big thing, and that's bad news for the people selling it. A wrench in their gears. Carl Jung, the psychology legend, said we'll do anything to avoid looking inside ourselves, and pleasure's the perfect dodge, a smoke screen we hide behind. It's loud enough to drown out the quiet questions we're scared to ask, a noise we crank up. So how do we get off this ride before it spins us dizzy into nowhere? First, we got to see it, really see the habits and hooks keeping us stuck, eyes wide open to the trap. Awareness is step one, but it's not enough. We've got to move, even if it's messy or tough, taking swings at the chain. Little wins like ditching notifications or picking a book over a binge can start cracking the cage open, a rebellion in small doses. Imagine your life if you flipped the switch, trading the quick fix for something solid and lasting. What if you chase meaning instead of the next buzz? What would you drop? What would you grab onto? What would shift in your orbit? The final piece of this puzzle is coming up, and it's the key to busting out for good, a light at the tunnel's end. Hang tight, it's about to get real and you won't want to miss it. Alright, let's cut to the chase. How do we take back our lives in a world that's banking on us staying distracted, a heist of our own making? The big truth here is that freedom isn't about doing whatever feels good. It's about having the guts to pick what actually counts, a choice with teeth. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher with the wild mustache, said if you got a solid why to live for, you can handle just about anything, a lifeline in the storm. That's our ticket out. Purpose over pleasure, every time a compass to cut through the noise. Look at the heavy hitters who've left a mark. People like Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or M.L. King. Names that echo through time. They didn't get there by kicking back with a beer and Netflix. They leaned into the hard stuff for a cause bigger than themselves. Sweat and soul on the line. Their lives scream that the best kind of happy comes from grinding for something real, not for popping pleasure pills. A lesson carved in stone. It's a wake-up call for us all. A nudge to aim higher than the couch. Viktor Frankl's got a roadmap for finding that why, forged in the fire of his own survival. He said meaning hides in 3 spots. Making something worth a damn, loving people hard, and growing through the crap life throws at you. A trio of treasures. It's not about navel gazing. It's about stepping up and digging into the world, hands dirty and heart open. Ask yourself, what's my mark? Who's my crew? And how do I turn the rough days into gold? Questions that cut to the core. Here's the bombshell that ties it all together. Pleasure's a shiny decoy keeping us from the real prize, meaning a bait we've swallowed whole. Aristotle called it eudaimonia, a fancy word for a life that's full and flourishing, not just a string of cheap thrills, a garden not a vending machine. To get there we need discipline, the muscle to say no to the easy stuff and yes to the right stuff, a flex that sets us free. Jocko Willink, the tough-as-nails Navy SEAL, puts it simple. Discipline is freedom, a paradox that packs a punch. Building that muscle doesn't take a miracle, just small, steady moves. A marathon, not a sprint. Try getting up early to think or sweat. Carve out an hour for a project that fires you up, or cut the cord on the apps that suck you dry. Baby steps with big payoff. These aren't sexy, but they're the bricks that build a life you're proud of, a foundation that holds under pressure. Over time, they turn into a fortress against the pleasure trap, a castle you rule. Here's a pro tip. Don't run from the hard stuff. Lean into it. Embrace the grit like an old friend. Growth's messy. It's sore muscles, late nights learning, or facing truths you'd rather skip. But that's where the magic happens, in the muck and the grind. Every time you pick the tough road over the couch, you're not just tougher, you're freer. A warrior, not a wanderer. It's the difference between drifting and driving your own ship, steering through the storm. Think about those tiny choices piling up. Each one a brick in your wall of defiance, saying no to a doom scroll and yes to a walk, or skipping the 5th episode to call your mom. Each one's a middle finger to the system that wants you numb, a quiet riot. Huxley saw it. We're at risk of loving our chain, but he also bet on us waking up, a faith we can cash in. You've got the power to flip the script. Purpose, grit, and a clear head can break you out, keys in your hand. So where do you stand? Feet planted or still swaying in the breeze? Are you cool with coasting on autopilot, letting the next buzz call the shots? Or are you ready to step up and own your path? A captain, not a passenger. This isn't just about you. It's about lighting a spark for everyone around you, a fire that spreads. Share your wins, your stumbles, your fight. Let's make freedom a thing we live, not just talk about, a movement we build together. This is your shot to snap out of it, to see the game and rewrite the rules in your favor. The chains are there, but they're not steel. They're habits you can ditch, threads you can snap with the tug. The road's not easy, but it's yours, and it leads somewhere worth going. A summit with your name on it. Pick smart, step up, and let's build a life that's real. Together, one bold move at a time.